funny pain. There are childhood memories at the end of every passage, so that can be confusing, the time tripping, when I suddenly turned 3. So this is the diary I kept when I was 18 that I'm publishing. It sounds literally like a nightmare, doesn't it? The handmade Jesus on Napoleon's living room wall has no face, just a gasping, caved-in head with blood dripping down its chest. He appears to have been crucified on some popsicle sticks. His mottled green and gold surface reminds us of fish scales, and his paddle-shaped toes fan out like a tail. It is a singularly gruesome crucifix. We call it Fish Jesus. The first time I saw it, I thought it was funny. It's less funny at night when you're alone, and even less funny tonight because next to me is a bag of horrible donuts one of the painters left for me as a joke. They look just like Fish Jesus. Oblong, greenish gold, and bloody with jelly. Coconut maggots swarm over them. I really don't want to look at them anymore, but throwing them away would mean touching them, and I don't want to do that either. So me and Fish Jesus and the donuts all lean against the wall, watching Christmas lights blink. It isn't Christmas, but these were the only working lights left in this empty apartment when its old man died. He was named Napoleon. All we really know about him is that he lived here in Providence and now he's dead. His body and most of his belongings carted away, and somehow he still pays his electric bill. Someone does anyway, and it isn't me or any of the other people I've seen use his electricity. I also know where he hid his key, under the mat. Napoleon was a brilliant tactician. And tonight I need a place to stay. So I park myself under a sad crucifix and watch tiny blue, green, red, and orange bulbs blink on and off. Insomniacs like to waste time. The lights are comfortingly tacky, the garish blue ones my favorites. They remind me of being a little kid, hypnotized and mystified by Christmas. I open first one eye and then the other to see if I can watch only the blue lights and ignore the other colors, but it's hard and I'm boring myself. So I close both eyes to try and get some sleep. They pop right open again. This room is not a good thing to look at, but I look anyway. The wall-to-wall carpeting is a pukey beige, bleached in the center by a stain shaped like a hermit crab. The paneling on the walls is marked by big splotches of something that once sprayed across it. It has been suggested by sleepless crashers that these splotches are a clue as to how Napoleon died. The whole apartment smells like mold and disinfectant. And now, donuts. The loosely associated group of crashers who frequent Napoleon's guest house, touring musicians, bored kids with nowhere else to go or nothing else to do, and anyone whose job isn't really a job, like painter, have agreed that the key should remain under the mat, the first place any desperate individual would look to honor Napoleon's memory. Not that we remember him, but he's become a kind of saint to us. He shelters the lonely and the lost, wrapping them in a soft blanket of Christmas lights and old man smell. So the key stays where Napoleon left it, because if somebody wants to break in here, well then we should make it easy for them. Clearly, they need Napoleon's soft blanket. I gotta get rid of these fucking donuts. They're making me sick, and they aren't gonna get any prettier. Maybe I'll leave them here on the floor for the animal. We don't know what the animal is, only that it gets in sometimes and eats cornflakes out of the cabinet. Which is fine, because I didn't like the look of those dead guy cornflakes anyway. Once, a painter named Jeff actually took the animal to the face. It leapt out of the apartment and jumped on his head when he opened the door. This is the closest encounter any of us have had with it. Unfortunately, it was the middle of the night, and the stairwell was too dark for Jeff to get a good look at it. The animal just knocked him backwards down the stairs and took off. Jeff was thrilled. The next time I saw him, he was still giddy, glowing with pride. "Kristin," he said dreamily, "the most wonderful thing happened. This guy looks just like Jimmy Stewart. I tried to imagine him falling backwards in the dark, limbs flailing, fur wrapped around his head. For some reason I saw this happening in black and white, maybe because of the Jimmy Stewart thing, which made it even creepier. But Jeff was so happy telling the story he looked dewy. Painters are so sick. I wouldn't want an animal jumping on my face in the dark. I gotta admit, I was enchanted though. Did it make a noise, I asked him? Was it furry? Did it smell weird? He couldn't remember much. He was falling downstairs. Happily falling, having taken a wild animal to the face, but too distracted by gravity to pay attention to much else. In retrospect, he figured it had been furry and was about the size of a watermelon. The mystery was only partially solved when the ghost turned out to be a furry, watermelon-sized face jumper that likes cornflakes and is good at hiding. We never found out what the animal is, though we now have tremendous affection for it, which is easy because it never shows itself. It politely devours whatever it can find and then takes off. We all act like it's a magic bear. But the best thing it could be really is a raccoon, and it's probably just a cat. Though it might be Taffy, the neighbor's dog who never comes when called. Our scary neighbors stand in their yard wearing bathrobes and yell, "Taffy!" over and over again, but Taffy never shows up. Maybe Taffy lives with us now. When I give touring bands and lonely kids directions to this place, I always mention the animal in case it jumps on their faces. Displaced individuals can be sort of jumpy. I wish it were here right now, because nobody else is. The more promiscuous and insecure of us have a rule. No sleeping alone at Napoleon's. A rule I'm breaking tonight. Taffy, I call weekly and wait. Napoleon took his bed with him when he left, so when you stay here, you'll sleep on the floor, and the floor feels extra hard tonight. Extra hard is extra lonely for some reason, like you're being punished for something you probably did, but don't remember doing. We live in the woods in a communal dwelling, a gigantic barn full of hippies, one of whom tries to write "Be Together" on a parachute that stretches across our ceiling. He's pretty stoned though, so what he actually writes is "Be Tog Eater." And no one has a replacement parachute or the money to buy one. I'm only 3 years old, so I shouldn't be able to read it, but my mother taught me to read when I was 2. I'm sure she regrets having done this as we lie on the couch together, staring at the ceiling. I guess he just likes to spell things his own way, she says. So we live under that magical sentiment for years, growing our own vegetables, drinking goat's milk, and feeding the rats who live their tog eater with us by hand. Because rats are Buddhist creatures too.